The surprise in the story is that Jesus sees the kingdom of heaven as being something within you. Well, within, I tend to be visually thinking in the stomach or in the heart. But he seems to mean our thoughts. You know, to think of God as Dad, Heavenly Dad, Abba, dearest friend, is a foundational thought, so to speak, on which all other thoughts are understood and arranged and monitored by. A rock on which this construction of our values and thoughts and understanding and purposes are built. And that's to say very complicated way that I'm going to see God as Dad, and we'll be all right. Things have to be simple for children, and that spiritually here we are children, but there we will be wonderful adults because of a successful childhood, and that therefore a successful childhood is our priority. And when we instill this purpose in ourselves, we're greatly blessed by it. It's as simple as that. Simply seeing God as Dad. You know, he uses the word Father, probably Abba, over 100 times in John's Gospel alone. That if anything was what the Jesus story is about, it's this, that God is to be seen as our Heavenly Dad. Loves us. And that's what we're sent to do in the story. I've sent them. I've given them your name. I've finished the work that thou gavest me to do. And I want them to be with me where I am, in this view, in this kingdom, in this wonderful estate that you have given me, Heavenly Dad. Is what Jesus is saying, basically, in John 17, I think. What do you think when you read it? And does it strike a chord in you that says this is the way to go? If it does, then you see Jesus as the way. Not the God, of course, but the way to God. So we join with him in the way. And he calls us friends, not servants or slaves, not underlings, not inferior, but friends, because he shared everything he knows that's of importance of his Father with us, that we be blessed like him. In other words, the glory that God gave him, he's given us. And he prays that we're sanctified, protected. In fact, this very knowledge of God as Dad is our protection. I think that's what he means. But it's what you think that's going to count. So I commend it to you. The story, not the religion that the world's made of it. That's extremely suspect. You know, I mean, the world can get things wrong and, in a sense, build things for quite other purposes. You know, the perfect society that actually benefits those that are privileged in that society. But the society we seek is an eternal one with our Heavenly Dad. And he seems to have no favourites. In the story again, John 17, in the prayer, Jesus is saying, thou hast loved them, that's us, as thou hast loved me, that's Jesus. And he's saying this to his heavenly dad, God. And we assume that's our heavenly dad too, from the story. So it's a story that's a great blessing, is the way, and he personifies the way in the story. He is our example, not our God, but our example. And there's something of an individuality about children in the world. They're all different, but they're ours, say, in our family. And they're all important to us. And ideally we have no favourites. So we are open-handed in this way, but we are prioritising. And we are given a self, an individuality, and a tremendous drive to prioritise that individuality, ourself. Else, of course, we can't stay in the classroom long enough to perfect what we need. Sorry, not to perfect, that's a bit misleading. But to gain what we need for life eternal. So we are here prioritising ourselves, yes. But we find this embraces others because, well, we find we have a natural compassion for others in that they seem to suffer as we suffer. And we experience some suffering here. Hopefully not too much, but just enough to give us that push to truly seek and find out what our priorities are. Life eternal. What our foundation is that's safest. Possibly the Jesus story. That God is our heavenly dad. Why would we want to trust this? Because it presents as the best future we can see. A harmonious fullness of life, with our dad in a glorious state, which we call heaven, which we may well envisage as the perfect family, eternal family, good, a blessing, life, fullness of life, peace, joy, hope, meaning, creativity, blessing, abundant life, life eternal. Bless you, dear one. And I think you find the story does bless, but tread carefully. And it may help if you prioritise where you focus your attention. And I think that prayer, its very nature, namely it's the hero of the story, Jesus, praying for us. Those that believe on his word, and they're not his words according to him, but his heavenly Father's, God's. We don't worship the words. We love God and fullness of life that God represents to us. And to see him as dad is presented as the way to go. Bless you. Thank you.